You ever had the cops called on you for moving into your own house?
Yeah.
That was me. Day one. I hadn't even unpacked the first box, and suddenly I was being treated like a criminal. But here's the kicker: while this self-appointed queen of the neighborhood was screaming about me being illegal, I discovered her entire driveway, the one she used every single day, was built illegally across my property. And that was the beginning of her downfall. Act 1. The fire gets lit. Names: Austin Gray, 30-something, plumber by trade, divorced, finally scraped enough together to buy a modest home in Maplewood, thought it was going to be a fresh start, maybe even some peace after a few rough years. Peace lasted exactly 6 minutes. I was barely out of my truck when she came storming across the lawn. Abigail Gonzalez, bathrobe flapping like some kind of deranged superhero cape, slippers shaped like cats slapping against the pavement, phone already in hand. "You don't belong here," she screamed, pointing like she'd just caught me breaking into my own place. Before I could even process, she was dialing 911. By the time Officer Reyes pulled up, I was standing there holding my house keys, wondering if maybe I'd bought the wrong place. Abigail declared, in the most dramatic voice possible, that I was committing unauthorized early occupancy and commercial trespassing. I swear, it sounded like she'd been rehearsing in front of a mirror. I handed Reyes the deed. Title: mortgage papers. Hell, I gave him my whole filing cabinet if it meant shutting her up. The officer skimmed, nodded, and said, "Ma'am, this gentleman owns this property. He has every right to be here." End of story. Right, wrong. Abigail puffed up like an angry pigeon and started ranting about neighborhood standards and the right type of people. Translation: people who weren't me. She whipped out a clipboard, a tape measure, even a professional camera, started snapping pictures of my truck, my tools, my coffee cup for documentation. That was my welcome to Maplewood. Later, my across-the-street neighbor, Tom Collins, walked over with a cup of coffee. Nice guy, software developer, works from home. He leaned in and said quietly, "You're gonna want to document everything with her. Trust me." His tone, it was the same tone friends use when they tell you, "My ex is complicated." I should have listened harder. The next morning, my yard looked like a bureaucratic Christmas tree, fake violation notices plastered on my door, mailbox, even my trash can, printed on letterhead that read Maplewood Neighborhood Standards Authority. Looked official, except the city had never heard of it. Abigail had created her own government, complete with codes, fines, and penalties. And every time I glanced at the orange survey stakes stuck in the ground near her driveway, she'd twitch, change the subject, like she was hiding something. I didn't know it yet, but those little flags were the thread that would unravel her whole empire. Act 2. The war escalates. Abigail went from eccentric to terrifying in record time. Every morning, 7 sharp, she'd sit in her dented sedan with binoculars and a thermos, logging my routine. Coffee at 7:15. Check the mail at 7:20. Water the plants at 7:25. I was her personal reality show, and she was both director and audience. Then Tom showed me something that chilled me to my core. Printouts from county IT logs. Abigail, who worked as a paralegal, had been using her law firm's system to dig into my life, my divorce records, my insurance history, even my medical files, my entire existence laid out like evidence at a trial. And then came the phone call that gutted me. "Austin, this is Margaret from Riverside Renovation. We've decided to go with someone else." That was $75,000. Months of planning, gone. Why? Because Abigail had spread rumors that I was operating illegally. It snowballed clients canceling, insurance companies questioning my coverage, fake reviews popping up online. She even called my ex-wife trying to dredge up dirt. I'll be honest, this broke me. One night I sat on my bare mattress staring at the ceiling thinking, maybe I should just sell. Maybe this is why the last 2 owners left. I felt small, powerless. I even started questioning myself. Was I really the problem here? But then the email landed. The title company confirmed. No easement existed for Abigail's driveway. None. Every time she backed out of her garage, She was trespassing on my land. Suddenly, all those stakes and her nervous behavior made sense. She wasn't protecting the neighborhood, she was protecting her secret. And right then, I knew I wasn't leaving. Tom and I put together a plan. We'd wait for Abigail to overplay her hand, and then we'd bring the hammer down. That moment came at the community meeting. Picture it. Abigail in the local rec center, 2 hours early, setting up a projector, poster boards lined like a serial killer's lair, a 73-slide PowerPoint titled Community Threat Assessment. The woman had protractors measuring the angle of my truck. She even had a pie chart of my suspicious door-slamming patterns. Neighbors flipped through binders stuffed with 347 photos of me existing. Their faces went from confusion to horror. And then, her laptop overheated. Tom gave me a look. My turn. I plugged in my own laptop and pulled up the county survey. A big, bold map filled the projector screen. It showed Abigail's driveway. Her sacred driveway cutting 12 feet across my property. Gasps filled the room. Neighbors leaned forward. The emperor had no clothes. Abigail dropped papers, spilled coffee, stammered about historic precedent and prescriptive rights, but it was over. Everyone saw it, and in that instant, the balance of power shifted. Act 3. The fall. Cornered animals are dangerous. Abigail was no exception. A week later, at 2:30 a.m., my security lights exploded on. I peeked out and nearly laughed. There she was, dressed head to toe in black, ski mask in August, scratching my truck with a key. Officer Reyes rolled up, flashlight in hand. "Ma'am," dropped the key. She tried claiming it was a late-night vehicle inspection as part of her community duties. Even Reyes had to choke back a laugh. She was hauled off in cuffs, crowbar and all. But she wasn't done. From jail, she filed for a restraining order, painting herself as the victim of my systematic intimidation. And unbelievably, a judge granted it temporarily. Suddenly, I had to park blocks away from my own property. Clients saw the record and bolted. 28 grand here, 32 grand there gone. That nearly broke me for good. But then, Derek, her own son, slipped a USB drive under my door with a note. "I'm sorry. Use this." On it, Abigail rehearsing her victim act, fake tears and all, then flat out confessing. I researched him before he even unpacked. No one buys property on my street without my approval. That was the bullet in the chamber. Courtroom packed. Neighbors lined the walls, hungry for the showdown. Derek looked pale as a ghost as he slid the USB into the evidence player. Abigail's own voice filled the room, bragging about her plan, laughing about ruining my contracts, admitting she'd abused her law firm's database. Gasps echoed like gunshots. Judge Thompson's face hardened. He slammed down, ruling after ruling. Restraining order vacated. No contact order placed against her. Referral for criminal charges. Her law firm fired her by text before she even left the courtroom. Her career, her reputation gone in 23 minutes of her own words. But I wasn't finished. With the county's blessing, I filed for a declaratory judgment and a building permit. And a week later, contractors installed a 6-foot cedar privacy fence right across her precious driveway. Legal. Permanent. Neighbors sipped coffee on porches watching Abigail in a wrinkled white dress, chaining herself to a sprinkler head she mistook for part of the fence. Officer Reyes just sighed, called bolt cutters, and shook his head. And then silence. Her car sat trapped in the garage, an expensive paperweight. She was forced to park 3 blocks away, schlepping groceries past the very fence that symbolized her defeat. The woman who tried to control my every move couldn't even access her own driveway. And that's where it ended. Abigail stripped of power, stripped of property, standing in the rain, staring at a fence she could never cross again. Lesson. Always read your property survey, because sometimes the best revenge is just enforcing the boundary that was yours all along.